Build One South Africa leader Mmusi Maimane says government should enforce a court order that compels it to exempt certain public institutions from rolling blackouts. Now, he's called on communities, businesses and other organizations to sign a petition that will compel to implement the court order. Last week, the High Court in Pretoria issued an order on the exemption of schools, clinics, hospitals and police stations from the rolling blackouts. Now, government has since indicated that it will appeal the order. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legodi joins me now in studio. Katlego, thank you so much for your time. Now, you were in Soweto where Mmusi Maimane was addressing the public. So talk to us about what he really is arguing, because we know from even energy experts that what the court ruling has made, it's going to make it very difficult for Eskom that is struggling utility as it is to exempt just some of those institutions. So talk to us about what he said.
Good afternoon, Unati. So Mmusi Maimane taking the fight for the lights to be on to Soweto this morning. He took it straight to Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. He was outside that hospital from early in the morning today, accompanied by community members from Soweto alongside activists from Build One South Africa. So the reason why he took that fight to Soweto is because he was trying to show us the significance and the impact of load shedding on public health facilities. So he's saying that Chris Hani Baragwanath has not been spared from the ongoing rolling blackouts. Of course, taking issue with the pronouncement by Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan that he is going to be appealing that court order that more or less gave government 60 days to ensure that they put measures in place to exempt schools, hospitals and other police stations across the country. Of course, there have been concerns around criminal activities that are attributed to load shedding. We hear from Mmusi Maimane today that he's gotten reports around the fact that lives have been lost in some of these facilities, including hospitals. And he's saying that he has it on good authority to believe that government can really afford to really more or less adhere to these court orders. So what he's saying here is that he's now roping in the men and women on the ground, differences aside, political affiliations aside. He wants people, South Africans that are affected by load shedding, to really sign this petition that will form part of their challenge going forward. He's also going to be taking this petition to Parliament so that at least it can be debated there. He's arguing today that there's gross violation of human rights here associated with the power cuts that have been ongoing. So he's saying that once lives are lost, so health, for instance, it's actually a basic human right that people need to ensure that there's a right to life. So he's saying when there are interferences at hospitals like this, then there is a problem and a cause for concern. He's saying that the money is there. Experts are saying that indeed you're right to say that the feasibility of this needs to be looked into. But Mmusi Maimane believes that the money is there because he says that as we speak right now, government officials, your ministers, they have VIP treatments and the likes. They have been exempted from the get-go where load shedding is concerned. So he's saying that they're coming across as insensitive because during COVID-19, we saw all hands on deck to try by all means to save lives here. So he's questioning as to why this time around, and we're seeing that agility and that vigor from government to ensure that at least the plight of people is respected here. They're willing to take it all the way to the Constitutional Court. They've roped in Advocate Tembeka Toby, who's already working on their responses right after the Parliament, after Pravin Gordhan indicated that as the Minister of Public Enterprises, that ministry is going to be appealing this court process. So he's not convinced that government can really in any way have a case to answer here. Have a case to make in terms of saying that they don't have money and saying that the grade will really not afford to see some exemptions like this taken into consideration. Also saying that this is not something new. So there are other public health facilities that already, are seeing alternative use of electricity or energy, this being generators and the likes. And he's saying that why don't we ensure that all of the public facilities are really in any way more or less supplemented, and they are adequately, more or less boosted in terms of their energy supply. So he's convinced that this petition is just a key that can really make sure that they win this case against government.
Did he indicate at all that he will be working with other, movements, political parties? Because we know that this case was brought up by the UDM, and of course, with this court ruling. I mean, time and time again, we find that political parties just work in silos and, petition the community to get involved. And what we really want as society is to get almost like a one kind of approach to this. Did he mention that at all? Who is he going to be working with? Or are they taking this on by themselves?
So he's saying there's a regime that is really underway right now where we see political parties putting their differences aside for the good cause of the nation. So he's saying right now that it's not in any way, a political campaign that is coming from BOSA, but we have the UDM and other political parties that were also applicants in this regard, roping in, of course, labor organizations as well, roping in business as well. There are about 19 of those organizations that approached the court to form part of this, saying that it's about the people and not the politics of the day. Also calling on other formations, your denosas, those that had said after the ruling that they welcome and support, to say that maybe be the first ones to sign this petition so that we show a government that really at this point in time, nurses, doctors, they can't afford to work under these circumstances where now they'll be operating using torches and the likes because their lights are off. So he's saying that we find ourselves in a very unprecedented position right now, unprecedented situation where this load shedding is concerned, but also citing that it's not the first time that we're getting this load shedding. It's been about 15 years with load shedding at hand. So he was saying that a government, from the get-go in 2008 already, when this load shedding started rearing its head, they should have put measures in place so that at this point in time, then we're not talking about exemptions to these facilities that are facing immense pressure from the rolling blackouts.
All right, Katlego, thank you so much for that update. Katlego Legodi, they're just giving us an update in terms of Build One South Africa's leader, Mmusi Maimane, saying that government should enforce a court order that compels it to exempt certain public institutions from rolling blackouts.